to higher ground, higher ground. Through the challenges we'll navigate, happen and become the best and elevate. Oh yeah, rising above, reaching for the sky, unlocking potential we won't deny. In the sweet spot, we'll pave the way, transform the leaders day by day.
Bienvenidos a The Sweet Spot, donde los líderes hablan de tech. Oh, wait. This is wrong. Wrong line. Welcome to The Sweet Spot, where IT leaders share the insight with other leaders and others that want to lead. My name is Carlos Vargas, and as in every week, I have my two co-hosts, Howard Hilton and Paul Lewis.
Hello.
Hola, Padre Carlos. Han pasado unas semanas desde nuestro último podcast. ¿Cómo han estado? ¿Qué está pasando? ¿Estoy hablando en inglés?
The only Spanish I know is the warning they give you when they go on the rides about manos and brazos.
I had ChatGPT translate that for me.
You know, it's so funny to actually... I was recording before, you guys came in and they're recording the whole thing, so that was awesome.
Yeah, we watched the pre-show, which was an entirely Spanish show. I don't know the topic, but you were clearly excited about the content. It sounded interesting.
We were talking about indecision. When you don't take a decision, and how do you a small formula to take a decision when you haven't taken a decision.
Got it. Interesting.
So you're traveling, so you're not back home. So
what? This is my home. Does it not look
really?
like my home? You don't have two queen beds in your bedroom? That's weird. I am traveling.
What
was that?
Anything interesting or new?
I heard Howard say there's new news. I have some interesting news to share, but let's go with Howard first.
Yeah, so I guess 10 minutes ago it was announced that James Earl Jones has passed away.
Yes, I saw that as I was passing by a CNN screen.
Yeah. I mean, the voice of a generation, right?
Yep.
There is no... Yeah, I can't think of a single voice that is more like defines us, defines our generation than the voice of Darth Vader.
Maybe our generation. Carlos is a different generation.
Well,
well, it's true. He was the voice of many things. He was a stage actor. Did he have an EGOT? Was he able to get that? No. Maybe. Emmys, yes. He got stage. He got Academy. Was he missing one? I guess he was missing a Grammy, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, all right. I'm sure he could have if he had tried. Maybe got a Grammy for voiceover, some Michael Jackson song. I don't know.
You know, it's interesting that to try to figure out, he probably never start trying to be the voice of a generation or to define something, but he did something so well that then everybody have kept, like, I saw like a new golf commercial with Darth Vader. I'm like, golf?
Was it an old voice or a new voice? Like, was it a new narration or they just used his old narration?
No, it sounded that was the old one.
Oh, okay. Yep. It's too bad. It's gonna negatively affect how we perceive characters.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he was the voice. He was the voice of our father, whether you're Luke Skywalker or Simba.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Exactly.
No, we need a mix of Star Wars with Simba.
I'm sure. I'm looking at the Sphere now, and they're showcasing the news. That's interesting.
Are you in Vegas?
I'm in Vegas. Yeah, I'm at the Vegas for the Oracle Cloud World Conference. So since Howard took us down several notches in terms of
True.
in terms of the
Mine was
mood.
joyful. Yes.
Appreciate you starting off the podcast. So
Yeah.
I'm going to let you guess today's news that happened 43 minutes ago. September of 2023, so almost exactly a year ago, there was an announcement by Oracle and Microsoft that one could deploy Oracle workloads in Azure. It has cross-connect between the point of presences. You could run Oracle workloads on bare metal within Azure. You could run it within native compute services within Azure. You can run it on what's generally referred to as Azure database at, Oracle database at Azure, which is their Exadata infrastructure within the Azure cloud environment. You could bring your own license and so on and so forth. There was, a new innovative way to migrate data from Oracle databases in OCI or on-premise into Azure. Amazing. Okay. Lots of news. June 17th of this year, there was an announcement by Google and Oracle. Amazing partnership that includes things like this. An ability to run Oracle databases bare metal in Google Cloud, run in the database, autonomous database in native cloud services for Google, running with a interconnect between two POPs across the world, and of course a Oracle database at Google Cloud to which you can bring your own license. Today, Oracle Cloud World, tomorrow is day one of the event, was an announcement. What would be your guess to the announcement 43 minutes ago?
That they're now doing the same thing in AWS.
Interesting. Absolutely true. AWS now a key new partnership where, of course, you can run Oracle database on bare metal. You can run it in AWS native services. You can run Oracle database at AWS. And of course, there's an interconnect between the POPs. Bring your own license is the biggest value to that. Coincidence. So now your multi-cloud experience for your Oracle databases are all 4 clouds, including your data center.
So are we going to move it across clouds? So we're going to fail over the database from Azure to GCP to AWS?
Well, one now has a migration option for your Oracle database, your traditional database, to any cloud. Everybody gets paid. There is no consequences to the interconnect, so it's a free interconnect. You can bring any of your existing licenses to any one of the clouds. My question, of course, is what's in it for Oracle? Now that they've created these 3 partnerships over the last year, what's the advantage to Oracle?
I mean, Oracle's still a software company, right? So licensing their software is always going to be an advantage to Oracle.
True.
That's never not going to be an advantage to Oracle. So I'm not sure that I think we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how do we make this deeper? How do we give ourselves 360 degrees of value?
Right.
And the reality is there's a ton of alternatives to Oracle. There's a ton of database alternatives that are good quality, scalable, responsive, fast, like everything you'd want from a database system.
Yep.
So I mean, if Oracle doesn't enable these features, doesn't disable or enable things like license portability, it's not that hard to find an alternative anymore. So I don't see that the depth of the advantage has to go much deeper.
So it's less about an advantage and more about cutting the drain, right? Right. So that everybody who is modernizing instead of migrating now has an option to migrate first, to slow it down, to turn off the tap from the modernization away from Oracle.
For sure, right? And frankly, if that's one thing I don't have to think about modernizing, right? Because it's already like it does everything I want to do. The data's already there. It's the biggest piece of the application. If I don't have to think about how to modernize the core data platform of my application, then the modernization effort also becomes significantly easier.
Mm-hmm.
And data's not getting smaller, right? I'm not reducing the number of databases I have in my environment. I'm not reducing my data footprint in my environment, right? Whether that environment is on-premise, IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, I'm only increasing the amount of data that I have. So Enabling that also enables Oracle to not only retain me as a customer, but also potentially retain any future value I may have as a customer as I continue to grow and expand and evolve.
Can there be a value of all those hidden databases that they're not collecting licenses, that now all the agents going to be seen and now they can have an accurate inventory of all that?
Maybe, but they were doing audits anyway.
Yeah.
Right? That's how they
Remember,
were.
Oracle leads their renewal conversation with legal. So,
Right.
right. I mean, they're not as bad as they used to be, but they're still, their reputation hasn't really changed around kind of how aggressive they are in making sure that you've met their licensing requirements.
Right.
So that might be a 3 to 5% bump, right? On average.
So if the value to Oracle is turning down that tap of modernization, the value to the other three clouds is that instead of always being a modernization requirement, which is costly, it can be a migration project, lift and shift the application, lift and shift the database, and then modernize, or at least, and then have access to the other services within each of the clouds. Some AI services, some security services, some, other third-party marketplace accessed services.
Sure.
I can see value to them. The value to the customer is keeping your workloads together.
I mean, the value to the customer is what we just talked about, right? Like, if modernization is the thing that I need to do, then I need that to be as simple and seamless as possible, and not having to change my database platform and all of the work that goes along with it should make life simpler. I say should because the reality is, in a lot of these cases, we designed our database schema around the limitations that we had at the time we designed that database schema, right? And we may no longer face those same limitations, and so we're also going to lose the benefit of that modernization that we could gain. But there has to be some exchange. I can't modernize 5,000 applications on equal footing in this way. Maybe there's 1,000 of them I don't actually have to modernize to nearly the same level of effort.
Do you think that will slow down modernization efforts? So if I was, as a CIO, endeavoring to go from traditional database to Postgres and cloud, am I going to potentially pause that effort and lift and shift Oracle to cloud and then stay there?
What's the advantage of Postgres in cloud versus Oracle in cloud? Like, why does that particular thing equal modernization? I'm not sure. It does.
Sorry. I was just defining migration meaning lift and shift, modernization meaning changing tech. Just as a philosophical difference in statement.
Sure, but that's kind of my point, right? Like I think some of the things we call modernization are not much more than lift and shift with extra steps. Like, we're not re-architecting the totality of the application, so I'm not sure.
Sure, if it's still a relational database, I kind of buy that. It's quite possible that I'm using some series of Oracle features to which I have to duplicate above and beyond just the database, right? It doesn't have other features, and therefore it has to be Postgres and these other three things just to accommodate the features I was using in some way. I don't know. I don't know the detail, but let's say I was using Golden Gate implementation, so I needed to duplicate that in the cloud environment too, not just the RDMS part of it. Just as an example.
Sure.
So do you think the modernization, which means I really just mean change tech there, am I less likely to change tech if I can just run Oracle database natively in cloud, bring my own license?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so. I genuinely hope so. I genuinely hope that what that means is I only have to modernize those things where I get a significant business value from the modernization effort. And I don't have to modernize it because I can't do the thing I did on-prem in the cloud the same way at the same economic model, and that this helps with the economics. And therefore, I can only focus on those things where I'm getting a substantial shift, and my kind of the rubric of prioritization should then significantly change. Right? Because I don't need to modernize like it's pointless to modernize 1,000 applications if I have 1,000 applications. It's pointless because 700 of those applications are of low value anyhow. and I'm going to spend a ton of money to get what, a 5% improvement in productivity on an application that's touched 3 times a month. Like
Right.
that's not great. I really would prefer not to do that. At the same time, I don't want to do just a lift and shift, right? And so shifting to Oracle PaaS is going to give me a net improvement without having to modernize the entirety of the application.
Right.
Right. So I mean, I can see the obvious value of it. I mean, the disadvantage is I still have Oracle in my environment.
Yeah.
Right. And so everything that comes along with that, I also still have, good and bad.
How you feel about Oracle, the company, and its price and its performance. So, and by performance, I mean company performance. By its account relationship, that's not going away. That
Correct.
arguably is elongated, right, to my organization. Right?
Correct. Well, I no longer have a forcing decision.
Right.
Right. Where I could have argued I had a forcing decision before.
It's interesting. It adds another consumption decision, however, right? So yes, I can run the same workload in each one of the clouds in my data center, like for like. However, I'm going to move from a capitalized financial decision or a subscription financial decision, which is OCI, or a consumption decision, which is the rest of the clouds, right? So they're modeled differently, obviously. In the spreadsheet, the calculus looks different. So that might make the financial conversation more complex, or at least gives you another option at the table to make, whatever makes sense for you financially.
Well, it removes a layer of obfuscation that existed, right? If I'm going through all of my costing and on-prem includes I run this in Oracle and cloud includes I do not run this in Oracle, I cannot run this in Oracle, right? Then you were able to obfuscate some costs. Okay, cool. Like, yes, it's more, but we had to go away from Oracle, and so we lost the value of that perpetual license. We lost that value, the value of that kind of sunk cost that we had already had, and therefore, that changes. This is I no longer have the ability to obfuscate behind that particular change, and therefore, I actually think it makes the A/B comparison easier. Right. I mean, it does mean we probably need to get better at our modeling. Right. We tend to look at on-prem, I think, a little bit like we take the easy route for everything, and we look at things as a sunk cost, and we should never look at it as a sunk cost. Like I'm not a big fan of capitalizing assets that lose, like depreciating assets is one thing. A building that I depreciate never loses its value.
Right.
A server absolutely unequivocally loses its value. Right. So I'm a big fan of those should have been operating costs 10 years ago.
Right.
So that you are forced to replace them so that they continue to operate correctly. Right. If the lifespan of a server is 3 years, great. You have a 3-year lease with a planned replacement, and then your operating cost is your operating cost. Right. I think we tend to CapEx those sort of things and then use that as an excuse to stretch it to 5 years or stretch it to 7 years, way beyond the usable lifespan, and we shouldn't have been doing that to begin with. Right. So I think some of this will also help with those conversations because the cloud doesn't have that option.
Will there be a different conversation now instead of with Oracle directly now just with the provider? So like I consume X license that I buy from their marketplace. I don't need to have a relationship with that vendor. I just buy it from the marketplace. It's 10 grand. Okay, it's 10 grand. Here's the invoice that come every month. Instead of me keeping that relationship that I had before.
You'll still need a software relationship with Oracle. That's not going away.
Why? If I'm buying it now directly from the vendor?
Because you're not. You're moving your licenses.
That's right.
Right. So it changes your licensing enablement. It doesn't change your purchasing model. So I'm still buying from Oracle, just instead of running on-prem, I'm running in the cloud. And so now I've changed the enablement of that model.
Correct.
Yeah. So then what difference do I get that I couldn't do that before? What is the real change? Because I could buy a physical server in the cloud and run Oracle.
Well, that was the problem, is that your only options were bare metal.
Correct.
I guess I could have virtualized into Kubernetes or VMware, but those are my only options.
Now I can run it as PaaS.
And I couldn't bring my license.
Now I can use a pre-built Oracle instance that's maintained by the software vendor. right?
Okay.
That's a huge
Correct.
advantage to me.
And like in the old world, it would have to be a new workload and a new license,
Right.
Okay.
right? There was no option, which takes me to the sort of next point. If I were to look at all three press releases, they're the exact same words. Like I could take off all of the logos and you wouldn't know the difference between the three of them. Literally the exact scheme per vendor, which means the choice of which cloud has nothing to do with Oracle at that point. They've taken Oracle out of the equation. It's now all the other things why you choose any one of those clouds, like what services those clouds have that you want to consume, or where your other workloads happen to be, or where you have your productivity tool, or where they might have a third-party data marketplace that others don't. Like that's the decision of the database now is irrelevant because it's the same.
Right.
I thought that was pretty strategic. That sounds like a smart move from a Larry Ellison. Would that so resonate too?
That's really interesting because I thought that their OCI was already running on top of some of those cloud providers. It was not a completely separate implementation. So
Regionally, they
okay.
have their own, and then some regions they were piggybacking.
So then looking at that, if you have to choose when you guys were doing like buying for the banks, buying for what will you choose? Will you choose one cloud provider versus another? Will you let Oracle tell you go to this one?
If I was a betting man, I would say they know now at this point people have already made decisions. Right? It's very rare, other than startups, to which an organization hasn't already run a good portion of their workloads in one of the clouds to which they've chosen. That choice is made, right? So now what they're saying is, since you've already made a choice, customer, it doesn't matter to us. Feel free to put it there.
Right.
Dot.
Right. Yeah, Oracle did something I didn't expect Oracle to do, which is meet the customer where the customer is.
Right.
Right. Historically, Oracle has been, we will meet you where we want you to be.
Right. Which was in the data center.
Which was right. The only other option was Oracle Cloud, OCI. Right. Now what I wonder is some of those companies that made OCI choices, would they make a different choice today?
And they have that option. Now there's a project, of course, there's a cost of change to move it to one of the other three
Sure.
clouds. But with bring your own license, arguably it's just the effort time, right? The people effort, the FTE to make that choice. And maybe it's advantageous to you. Maybe you have most of your workloads running in Google, and therefore, yes, maybe I should put my core assets, my core databases in that cloud so that it's closer to BigQuery, right? It's closer to Google Ads because I'm a CPG in retail, right? All of my analytics is marketing analytics. Okay, well, that might make sense for me.
Will the cost of they running their own cloud be a determining factor why they now partnering with the other ones? Because to run your own cloud may be a big change on business. Now you're doing this, so
It absolutely could.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I can absolutely see, kind of an internal conversation at Oracle saying, hey, like we're not getting the market penetration we need with OCI to make OCI commercially viable for us to run and to be cost competitive. This gives us the ability to retain those workloads, which is the purpose of OCI. And yeah, we're going to give up some control, but we can start to divest at least some of those workloads that are not going to be profitable for us.
Yeah, I think the conversation Oracle is, we may not have won the cloud, but we have won the workloads in the cloud. Right? Because they're going to be, not unlike they're the biggest database that's not in cloud, they will be the biggest database in cloud by an ability to migrate to any one of the clouds.
Right.
well, the question that then I have is they have acquired multiple other technologies, MySQL or Postgres or all the major the world technologies.
Yep.
Is the announcement or the idea that they're gonna also start supporting those? Because I'm assuming that then Oracle will support the database in the cloud. That was another challenge. So will Oracle be providing that support, or will third parties gonna have to provide that support for the customers?
No, they're all certified as if it was a deployment and anything that was previously deployed.
Okay.
So if you bought Oracle RDMS or you bought JD Edwards, right, EBS, then you're going to call the same 1-800 number by EBS is down. Yeah. Especially since the at version, so Oracle database at Azure or at GCP, sorry, at Google Cloud or at Azure is Exadata equipment. So there's Exadata equipment in each one of those clouds, in each one of the regions. So even the migration is like for like, right? Whatever Exadata 9 I'm running in my data center and or OCI is duplicated in each one of the clouds. Another winning decision.
Interesting.
Interesting. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, because then that means that my hardware requirements gonna have to stay like for like. So if it goes down, I may still have to consume this much, but if I have to go up, I may have a big bump, even though it's in cloud. That is one of the things that
That's the question, right? Is it makes the migration decision easy, right? Because I'm running, 4 vCPUs here. I should be able to run 4 vCPUs there, and we're good to go, right? And since the interconnect is free, then I could even run a single workload across 2 clouds and be fine. You probably wouldn't do that, but let's say you could if you wanted to, right? Then yeah, the gap is there is the growth. The gap is the capacity. The gap is, well, what happens when, I hit seasonality in December and people are buying a lot of product? I don't have that answer, but that's the risk. I agree. But your risk, of course, on premise is that you've either had to buy enough capacity to support that seasonality or your future growth, or you have to buy another frame, right? That was your only choices anyway.
I can see from an architecture, there's some regions that have specific cloud providers that have better presence than others.
Yeah.
So you may say, hey, if I'm in Brazil and I'm in Sao Paulo, I may have a better presence with this provider. So I will deploy my Oracle in this area, in that provider. And if that interconnect truly is free, then that could replicate to, let's say to the States or back to Asia or somewhere else, by this other interconnect to be able to bring the data to a centralized place. So that may be
it's the secondary and tertiary copies that you're going to win with that interconnect. Yeah, it'll be cheaper to migrate, but that's one time event.
Yeah, it's also service mesh where you're going to win.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Using a modern kind of data catalog service mesh, you'll also have a huge win, right? Where you effectively can turn each of those Oracle databases, put the Oracle database where it is the cheapest, where it gives you the best performance, and then use your service mesh to turn it into an API endpoint.
Right.
Right. You would be smarter to invest your modernization efforts there than in the database itself, right? The OLTP database itself. You'd be smarter to invest your time, right? Putting all that stuff in front of a, smart data catalog, smart service mesh, smart, whatever you want to call the tool set.
So I'm not sure I buy there's no losers, right? So Oracle's a winner. Each one of the clouds are a winner. The customers are winner. I could argue service partners are winners because there's more migration work to do. Is there no loser? Is there no... Is this truly a win-win-win-win?
I mean, no, nothing's ever everybody wins, right? Like, I think you've got competitors that are going to be losers in this case, right? Whoever would have displaced the on-premise Oracle with something in the cloud, right? By the way, I meant semantic layer, not service mesh. That's my bad. Semantic layer is specifically what I was talking about. But like, so Mongo, I think, is going to take a little bit of a hit.
Okay.
Is it like
the alternative to the database? Okay, I can buy those. All the alternatives are not.
Yep.
Are
And then
not
the associated services that would have gone along with that will also take a hit, right? So yeah, there's going to be a partner hit. That being said, I'm not sure that, like, I'm not sure we should care.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, because that was never better for the customer. Paying more money to operate the same data that I operated fine on-prem was never a win for me as a customer. Right. And if I'm smart, right, what I'm doing is I'm then looking at those things going, actually, we can get more value by moving this to a modern system. Not, we have to move it to a modern system so that we're not paying for on-prem infrastructure anymore. Right? Like, that was always a lose. Now the win is I can prioritize those things where a change in schema, where a change in architecture, where a change in development is really going to make a difference, and not I'm doing those things because I'm forced to because I can't run Oracle in my preferred cloud provider. Right. So I think ultimately it's a huge win for kind of everyone that is customer centric. Right. It's a win based around the customer, not a win based around the vendors in the market.
What if
Oracle?
What if one of the reasons why you wanted to modernize is because you couldn't afford or couldn't find traditional DBAs?
Yeah, but that still doesn't change.
Well, it's elongating it now that because you were envisioning modernizing, and now that you don't have to, right? Because I can lift and shift, I can migrate.
Well, but if I don't have DBAs, I still have to modernize. Like I didn't remove the requirement for DBAs. Right. But I did give myself a little bit more of a lifeline. That's for absolute sure.
Yeah.
We talked probably like 2 years ago about the Great Resignation. Now that we're moving the Oracle to the cloud, we may be able to get all those old Oracle DBAs to come back because they don't have to go to a place. They can do it remotely on the cloud.
I mean, I don't know. The DBA I had at the last place that I worked, the Oracle DBA, the head DBA, the second we moved to the cloud, put in his resignation and retired.
Wow.
I mean, the second.
Wow.
The second that decision was made, he was like, out! I warned you, I'm out.
I warned you.
Well, which, like, when they told me, my response was like, yeah, okay. Like, still the right decision. Right. I mean, the reality is if we have a ton of people that retired because they don't want to learn the next new thing, that's fine. Right. That's fine.
Right. Now there's an option.
Right.
So my last question before we go. Given those press releases all read the same, what should be the focus of differentiation from the cloud provider's perspective? Because Oracle's not going to create a differentiation, right? They're going to say it is the same no matter where you go, including on-prem. So now it's each one of the cloud providers are saying, you need to come to me instead of them because of insert interesting distinction. It can't be uniqueness anymore, right? It can't be because I am the only one who has this partnership.
I mean,
they all have the same partnership.
Well, but they only have the same partnership at Oracle. Like, they don't have all the same partnerships with all the same vendors. But your point remains valid, right? Like this is further commoditization of the hyperscalers,
right?
Which was supposed to be the goal. From the customer perspective, right?
From the customer perspective, not from the provider's perspective.
Of course not. Nobody wants to be thought of as a commodity, but that's what they built.
Right.
Like, they built something that I need to refer to as a commodity. If it's bespoke, then that's what I had on-prem. Why would I want that again?
Right.
Right. The point is supposed to be that I have this level of portability that I've never had before, and agility that I've never had before. The more bespoke the hyperscalers become, the less portable I have. So, like, a smart strategy, certainly now, is to build for that portability. Even if you never use it, build for that portability.
So then it's all the non-IaaS stuff at each one of the clouds that become, in many ways, the determining factor, right? It might be a marketplace of data, a marketplace of applications, AI, other innovative services to which might be unique or distinct to each one of the clouds. That's where I have to do my comparative study, not the IaaS stuff.
Yeah, if you think about it, those additional services are the ones that gonna make the difference. Like security. Can I integrate now the single sign-on that I use for those services into a database that before you needed third parties or different things like that? How you pull
I had
the
to use an
data.
Okta because I had to traverse all those clouds. Yeah.
Correct. How can I get the data to, like you mentioned, to AI so it can do a private LLM or something like that, that now it may have direct access to that data because now I can have it there.
Right.
Those are going to be probably the determining factor uh, to pick one versus the other.
That sounds like it's a harder decision now, determining which cloud, not an easier decision.
Well, if you have data scientists that know, let's say, the GCP ecosystem and they're leveraging it versus the AWS, the decision going to be made proudly or influenced by those folks.
With that point of feature. But I'm just saying now, if I want to make a grander decision, right, I'm going to partner with one of the clouds holistically for CIO down. I now need to look at dimensions that are less obvious and maybe even difficult to compare, right? It'd be difficult to compare, as an example, AI development platform between the three, maybe as an example, or security controls platform between the three, because it's not as obvious as availability of types of CPU or availability of types of storage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the wrong way to look at it even originally, even though a lot of companies did. And I don't think today you can pick one. I think you can pick a primary and then a secondary and a tertiary, but I don't think you can pick one, especially if AI is on your list of things, because they're all going to improve at different rates.
Right.
And it's entirely possible that they're going to improve, that you're going to see iterative improvement, revolutionary improvement, iterative improvement, you know what I mean?
Right.
The leapfrogging may not be small, ignorable leapfrogging. Your AI strategy needs to be cloud independent for sure. Like it can't be tied to a specific cloud vendor.
And that might be the irony of all of this, is that we've spent a good portion of our time watching them leap from each other. We're now at a point in time where they're all relatively close. So at least on the infrastructure side, now we're going to go back to a time where they're going to leap from each other on those individualized, specialized services.
But that's why you have to build those individualized, specialized services independent of a single cloud decision. Like it's fine to say my IaaS is this one cloud, my my kind of core services is this one cloud, my distributed cloud file storage is this one cloud. It's not okay to make that as a blanket statement of everything will be in this one cloud. That logic is not going to pay well in the future.
Right. Well, that was fun. Thanks, Carlos.
There you have it, my friends.
Real time.
Make sure that you take the time to analyze, now that there's some new options for your databases, where should you place them? And talk to your people internally before you commit, so you know if there's some different details they need to take care of it. My friends, we'll see you on our next episode.